Lincolnville is a small town with a profound history that sits between Charleston and Dorchester counties. Joining us to share more about how this special place is being safeguarded is Dr. Pernessa Seele, president and founder of the Lincolnville Preservation and Historical Society. Great to have you with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So glad that you came back home and you're not living in the Big Apple anymore. You're doing some wonderful things here, but this is where you're from.
Yes, I'm from Lincolnville.
So tell our audience a bit more about Lincolnville. And it's a small town. Not a whole lot of people live there.
Yeah, it's a little small town, right on the 1 mile from Somerville. People know Somerville.
Sure.
And what's exciting about Lincolnville is that it was founded in 1867 by Reverend Richard Harvey Cain, who was sent here to restore Emmanuel AME Church. So really, Lincolnville comes out of Emmanuel AME Church, a story that has not been told. Yeah. And I say that if Richard Harvey Cain and others who he brought up, he bought land all over the place, if they came back today, they would still recognize their town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the establishment of the town, why it was founded in the first place?
Well, you know, from what I can glean, you know, this is, 1867 is 2 years after the Civil War, and we've gone back in the records and we found that Richard Harvey Cain, Reverend Cain, he hadn't become a bishop yet, and he was one of the first representatives to go to, African Americans to go to Congress. He was up in that area 20 miles from Charleston during the Civil War, buying land. And so, you know, I believe that, you know, these were, my great-grandmother was enslaved on James Island and was one of the early settlers. So there's a street there, the main road in Lincolnville, I still call it a road, is, you know, you had the Seele, the Holmans, the Jenkins, they all migrated from the Sea Islands, having been enslaved, to create this little enclave where they can come and build this town. And the first thing they did, they built a school and they built a church.
That's incredible.
You know, and so that same church still there, Ebenezer AME Church.
That's incredible. I was going to ask you how things have changed. I mean, obviously things have changed since those days, but do we still see the history that was established
absolutely.
there?
We have 3 historical churches. We have 2 historical grave sites. We have the Rosenwald School. I mean, I'm telling you, if the founders came, they would still recognize their towns. And what's also very exciting to me is that the names of the streets in the 1800s is still the names of the streets today.
And do some of those families still live there?
Yes, yes. You know, John Dott Library, they just reopened his library in Charleston. Yeah. Well, his family still own land in Lincolnville. And the first African-American principal of any school, which happened to have been Burke High School, came from Lincolnville.
Wow.
So there's so much history. John Henry McCrae, who was one of the first journalists, black journalists, his writings are archived at the University of South Carolina today. He's from Lincolnville.
You know, we had the pleasure of speaking with an author who had essentially resurrected a book written by the Reverend Mrs. Charlotte Riley.
That's right.
Who was one of the first black ministers and also educated here in South Carolina.
That's right. Charlotte Riley, she was the second postmaster general in Lincolnville. She was also enslaved and moved there. And she wrote a letter, President Roosevelt was the first president that came to Charleston after the Civil War. She wrote a letter and said, come to Lincolnville, and guess what? He came to Lincolnville. We have so much history in Lincolnville.
Yes, so we should all go to Lincolnville. Thank you so much. This has been so educational and interesting.
Yes,
Appreciate it,
yes.
Doctor.
Thank you.
We're back in 2 minutes.